let's welcome Geoff Moore back to campus.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, okay, all right. Now, usually I try to preview this stuff before it's published so that you guys can help me make sure it's not as dumb as it would be, but this time I actually must have missed the calendar. So this is actually now a book that is going to come out in September. And Tom said the sixth book. The first three books were written in the 90s, and they were all about that. Sometimes we call it the time of the great happiness. There was this unbelievable rush of technological enthusiasm, and it seemed like no matter what you did, it was just magically successful. And then the last three have been written in the last decade, where frankly there's been a sort of a maturation in the tech sector, and the larger companies have become more of a part of my world than they were in the first decade. So this is a book which is written, if you notice what the subtitle is, Free Your Company's Future from the Pull of the Past. And this is a book written to major companies that have had established franchises. They're very successful. They can afford to send their employees to places like Stanford for executive ed. But they're kind of stuck. Whatever it is that their success activity is kind of created enough inertial momentum that it's hard for anything else to get on board. And so what this book's about is how would you address that? Now, it's a book and this is a short talk. So what I've decided to do in this talk is do two things. The first half of the talk, I would like you to think of yourself as either you're on the board of directors or you're the CEO of Microsoft. You're John Chambers, you're Steve Ballmer, you're Leo Apotheker, you're Carol Bartz, you're the head of a big company. And I kind of want you to look at it from kind of the top down. And then halfway through, I'm going to switch to a chapter which is more oriented toward, I'm in the middle of a big company. What can I do to change things from the position I'm in as opposed to the very top? So let me kind of kick this off with an overview. This notion of the problem of we're stuck, and it just, I have to say, it's virtually universal. People kind of get, look, we have a successful franchise, but you can't stand still in tech. Between technology and globalization, things are really, really moving. Now that's great news for opportunity, but it's also for people that stand still, it's a threat. As our friends at Borders, for example, have discovered this year, and numerous other companies. So everybody gets that they've got to engage with growth. It's not like, hey, I've got an idea for you, right? They got it. What they don't like talking about, which they universally acknowledge, is there is massive internal resistance to moving resources away from established activities into new activities. Massive. And so that's kind of like the innovator's dilemma idea, you know, the corporate antibodies, that kind of stuff. So we've talked about it for a long time. We haven't been very good about doing much about it. So year in, year out, the experience is, man, it's Windows again, it's Office again, it's routers and switches again, you know, it's you know, display advertising for Yahoo again, and it's like, and even as something as young and as vibrant as Google, why did Larry Page come back in? I think Google's beginning to feel like we need to escape. We're only 10 years old, or barely 10 years old. We need to escape from the pull of our past. So the problem is the new stuff. It's not that there's not new stuff. There's tons of new stuff, but it doesn't ever reach materiality, meaning it never reaches like being 10 or 20% of the total company's revenue. You know, it gets announced, it gets started, and then somewhere along the line it dies on the vine. And so that's where we came with this notion. These are questions that basically our clients asked us. That's where the title came from. How can we achieve escape velocity? You know, how do we free ourselves from the pull of the past? So just to make clear, this is not a trivial problem, nor is it trivial companies that have struggled with this problem. These are some of the very, very best companies that tech has ever put on the playing field. So the notion that you are smarter than this problem, that a Stanford student would not have this problem, even though, because you are very smart, is not true. You will have this problem. So the question then becomes, what the heck is going on? And that's about the nicest language I will use tonight. So what's the mistake we keep making over and over again? So it turns out the way that the global management system works, and largely this is a management system that was developed in the United States, but it's become completely global. It's a performance-oriented management system. That's how people get compensated in large corporations. So performance is, and by the way, Not a bad idea, right? I mean, performance is critical to success, right? We're good at managing it. But here's the second sentence. Power fuels performance, and performance consumes power.